Good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Mariela Salinas, and I'm a marketing specialist here at Educate 360. Welcome to today's webinar, Creating and Sharing Dashboards in Power BI, presented by our excellent instructor for today, Jeff Tatusco. We are in Zoom for today's session, and we will be sharing a copy of this recording with you in an email after the webinar. We do encourage participation throughout the webinar, so please use the chat or the Q&A option for our short Q&A after the presentation. Educate 360 is so excited to present this webinar today, so without further ado, I will now hand it over to you, Jeff.
Thank you very much, and we will welcome everybody to the session. Again, my name is Jeff Tatusco. I'm a hybrid instructor here at New Horizons, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about Power BI. Specifically, we're going to show you a couple of different features with it. What is it in the first place, giving you an opportunity to kind of see some of the different tools associated with it. Really, more importantly, though, giving you some idea as to how you can go ahead and get this information into the hands of the people that are going to be making some of the different types of decisions. But to start off, again, let me put a scenario into your head. You go into whether it's a weekly meeting, a monthly meeting, or just a regular meeting, somebody is very, very excited to go in and share out their information. So everybody sits down and around a conference table, or they sit around a Zoom conference, and the first thing that they do is they throw a big spreadsheet up on the screen. Okay. And after a while, maybe about 5 minutes or so, the sound that you hear is a big thud from somebody's forehead hitting the desk, because it's very, very hard for people to just simply look at a spreadsheet and say, okay, this is related to this, is related to this, is related to this. It takes a very special brain to do that. I certainly do not have that, but there are certain people that do. So you need to have some kind of way that you can go ahead and get that information out to people. And one of the ways you do that is you create a graphical representation of your data. Well, the human eye can translate colors and patterns approximately 60,000 times faster than you can translate our numbers and characters. So we create visuals. And Power BI is a fantastic way to be able to take any kind of data that you have and put it into these fantastic visuals to be able to go ahead and display all the information that you need in a fairly timely way. One of the ways that we go ahead and do that is by incorporating something called Power BI dashboards. Now, some people hear that term generically and think, okay, yeah, you can throw a bunch of charts on a page. Well, a Power BI dashboard is more or less an interactive visualization that, again, allows people to go in there and see a quick, comprehensive view of the data that you really need to see that's most important, whether they're metrics, whether they're KPIs, all kinds of different things. You have the ability to go in and access a lot of those different tools. Now, creating dashboards actually is kind of it's an easy process, because really all you have to do is take tiles that you've built from other different types of reports and simply plug them in, because you're going to be able to pull a lot of different information from all kinds of different sources. It's not just going to be Excel or SQL Server or any other kind of database. There are hundreds of different data sources that you can use. And so now you will have the ability to go ahead and make sure that you can get that information not only out to people, but in a format that you can go ahead and use to be able to understand it. And once again, the key component to this is the fact that you want to be able to get it out to the people that are really invested in it, the stakeholders, the decision makers, the people that really have to be able to go in and start working with some of this information to make the decisions about what's going to be going on and how this is all going to be affected. So we can go in and we can create all kinds of different visualizations. Yes, we can create some of the more common ones, bar charts, line charts, scatter charts. There's all kinds of different things that you can go ahead and use to be able to display information effectively. Now, just out of the box, there are over 40 different visualizations that you can use in Power BI to get your point across. But maybe some of those don't necessarily work. So one of the ways that you can go ahead and improve on that, there's a location called Microsoft App Source, which allows you to really pull in all kinds of different options to be able to understand, the data that you want in a way that makes sense. And you can, like I said, there are literally hundreds of different visuals that you can pull into your report and get that set up there. Now, just because you can have visuals in there doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to necessarily say, okay, here's my visuals, that's it. Chances are people are going to want to be able to interact with this content. And there are a few different ways that you can do that. So most people are familiar, if you use Excel, to use a filter. Great, you can click a drop down. But you also have slicers. If you've used pivot tables before, you might have used slicers before. But they're a really effective way to be able to go in and get the information that you're really interested in so that it's going to be kind of focused just on your most important data. And somebody else might have something else that they're really interested in. So you can pull the same kinds of information from the same dashboard to be able to understand everything that's going on there. So everybody's going to be able to go in there, explore the data, and analyze the data so that everything is going to make sense as you're going through this. I mentioned before, you can pull up customized visuals, and you can even color or change the different color formattings to be able to enhance some different types of visuals. And you think about it, when you're in the business of data analysis, what you're really doing is you're telling a story. So you want to be able to make sure that that story has specific points to it and be able to go ahead and see that information. Well, if you think of a report as the actual story, you might think of a dashboard as the liner notes. So you can kind of get like the overall aspect of what's going on without having to get a little too detailed. And remember, these dashboards are going to be connected to the report. So if you do need more detail, we can go in and we can find that. Okay. A couple of things that you may want to think about when actually, you know what, rather than me sharing this out really quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull up a report that I have set up. Now, this is just a very generic report, shows a few different types of visuals. You'll notice down at the bottom of the page, there are a series of, well, different pages that you're going to be able to use. This is a report that was created inside of the Power BI desktop. Now, obviously, there are a lot of different things that we can go ahead and do when you're trying to pull data in. If I come up here to my home tab, you'll notice up at the top that there is a whole section up here of places where you can go to get data. And again, these are not just the only options. You can see that there's a one-lake data hub. So if you want to be able to pull data down from the web or from Azure SQL databases or anything like that, you can go ahead and pull that information out. If you need to connect to the Dataverse, Microsoft's storage hub, you can do that. Or you can go to any other kind of data source. There's all kinds of different data that you can go ahead and pull in. Once you do that, if I go ahead and pull this back up here, and I'll just pull this screen back over because I didn't necessarily want to show it up over here, what's going to end up happening is you will receive a window that's going to pop up that will allow you to go ahead and see what's called the Power Query Editor. So now you can go in there, you can access a variety of different tools to be able to make sure that this is going to work. Now, I'm not going to necessarily do this right now, but that's going to be a way that you can pull the data in. You're going to be able to clean it up. You're going to be able to make sure that all the data is going to be legible so that as you go through and you create your report, it'll make a little bit more sense. Additionally, you're basically going to treat this as a relational database. So that means that you're not just restricted to pull in one Excel spreadsheet and do that. You can pull data from all over the place and create one report from a multitude of data sources so that now everything's going to make a little bit more sense. You can tie it all together and be able to use some of the different features that are in there. So once you get some of this information up, now you have the ability to say, okay, I've gotten my data basically set up. And again, when you think about it, you're going to be able to come in here and you can interact with these visuals as well by using a series of what are called tooltips, which can be something as simple as just pointing to a data point and having numbers pop up, or by pointing to another data point and maybe even having a visual pop up. So you can go in, you can add these different options. Additionally, all of these are going to interact with one another. If I come down here and I click on this bubble, you'll notice that all the other visuals automatically reflect that bubble. So I can go in here and I can see those different options and be able to display it. Additionally, as I mentioned, you might see slicers like this timeline that I have. If I just simply click on the timeline, there it is. I can come in here and I can work with that information and make sure that I'm seeing everything that I need to. Okay. Additionally, as you go through, you may see some other features in here. Sometimes we talk about all these amazing visuals. But sometimes the most important piece of information you need is just a simple number. So one of the things that you can go ahead and do is you can place just a simple number, total sales, total profit, shipping costs, whatever you're tracking, you can put that total on there and you can summarize it pretty much in any kind of meaningful way. Now, once you get this information basically set up in a way that makes sense, now what we want to be able to do, we want to get this to a point where we can go ahead and get it to other people. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click publish up here. Okay, and I'll go ahead and save my changes. And so now it's going to ask me, okay, where exactly do you want to publish this? Now, when you go up into the Power BI service, you're going to store your content into what's called a workspace. And basically all that is just a container where you can store all kinds of Power BI reports and dashboards and all that. You'll see this section here called My Workspace. I'm not going to publish it up to my own, like the company workspace, but I'm going to publish it to My Workspace. You can think of My Workspace as OneDrive for Power BI. So it will give you the opportunity to go ahead and store all kinds of information in there. So if I store this in my workspace, I can click select and it will think for a minute. And what it's going to do is it's going to connect to a website, which is the Power BI service. Okay. Again, there's really three components to Power BI. There's the Power BI desktop, which you see here. You have the Power BI service, which is the online component. And then you also do have Power BI mobile. So if you want to be able to access your content using your mobile device, absolutely you can do that. So if I come in here and I just simply go ahead and I can click open here, and what that's going to do is it's going to bring up a new window here in Power BI. And so it's going to think for a minute. And eventually what's going to happen is I will see the report here. So now I have all of this content that I can go ahead and use to build out a dashboard. Now remember, a dashboard here in Power BI is a specific entity. It's not necessarily just a page, although you can create it like that, to be able to go and display the most important information. So if I want to make sure that the powers that be have the most up-to-date information, what I can do is I can point to any one of these visuals and then I can simply pin it. And so now if I do that, I'm going to click a new dashboard and I will go ahead and call this sales dashboard or something like that. Okay. Now, once I have that in here, I can click pin. You can see that it pins it. I can go to the dashboard or I can keep building it. I'm going to keep building it. I'll click the total profit, do the same thing, change my dashboard here, click pin. Okay. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the shipping costs. Pin visual, drop down sales dashboard, pin. Now, once again, I can go to different pages if I want to. So if I come over here and click sales and profit, okay, I want to add the map into this. Okay, click the push pin, same thing, sales dashboard and pin. And then maybe, this little chart over here, the gauge chart, same thing, pin, add, they're added in, and click pin. And maybe just for good measure, I'll go ahead and take this visual up above. Once again, sales dashboard pin. Now, if I want to be able to go to the dashboard, right now, this is all stored in my own location. So this is a comprehensive view of some of the data that we have built in. Now, we may want to move this around a little bit because, some of these visuals are not necessarily set up in a way that makes sense. Now, having said that, I want you to realize that the dashboards themselves are typically going to be kind of read-only, okay? If you want to be able to get some more information on some of these, you can do that by simply coming in here and clicking on one of the visuals, and it automatically takes you back to the report where you're going to be able to go ahead and drill down to be able to get some more information. So for example, if I come in here, let's say I'm looking at one of these visuals and I want to be able to understand what's going on. If I have this data built in, I might be able to go in and use some other features to make sure I can see everything that I need to. Okay, so I can go in and I'll actually have the ability to drill down through some of the data to make sure I can see this. So for example, if I come over here and look at this bar chart, okay, if I want to be able to drill down, because categorical data, yeah, that's great, but I need more detail. Okay, I can turn this drill down on, click on the bar, boom. Now, not only is that affecting this visual, but you'll notice it's automatically affecting all of the other visuals directly on the page as well. If I choose to go ahead and say, well, it's baseball season, I'll go ahead and look at baseball here. Now I have all the different products that are going to be associated with baseball. So now I can go in here and I can look and get as much or as little detail as I need to based off of the data that I'm searching. Once again, there's a lot of different ways that we can show this up. I mentioned before about the timeline to be able to display it. Maybe I just want to be able to go ahead and see certain image or certain regions. Okay, here's another slicer down here. I can simply click on any one of these and be able to display the data in a way that's going to make sense to be able to see everything that I need to here. So all the data that you're going to be able to use is going to be available in your underlying reports. Once you add them to your dashboards, now, as I mentioned, you can go in and you can add other features in here. Now, let's say, and again, I mentioned before that you want to be able to go ahead and customize this a little bit more to be able to say, hey, this data is really, really important, but we need to be able to make sure that other people are going to be able to see what they need. Okay. So let's say, for example, I'm looking at this and you saw all the different products that were in that visual. Okay. What if I wanted to be able to see something like the regional sales uh, in a pie chart? Okay, well, I can simply come up here. You'll notice up at the top that there's a little section up here that says ask a question about your data. This is going to give you a Q&A. Now, this uses what's called a natural language reference setup, okay? Because you do not have to have some kind of wild and crazy programming language. You can type this in your own words. And as long as the column names that are going to be built into the setup are used, then guess what? We can go ahead and use this. So now, if I want to see show total sales by region, okay, and I can go ahead and pull that up. Boom, there it is. It automatically pulled up all the different regions there, which is great, except, boy, I'd really like to be able to see that as a pie chart. Okay, as pie chart. And just like that, there's my pie chart. Now, some people are going to be able to look at this and say, you know what, that's great, but, it'd be nice to have that in the dashboard that we just created. Okay, we can go in here, and if you look up at the top, you'll see that there's a button that says Pin Visual. So if I click that, now I can go ahead and back down to the same dashboard, click Pin. Now, if I exit the Q&A, hey, look at that. There it is. So now I have these different visuals that I can go ahead and incorporate to be able to display it. Now, that's one way that you can go ahead and interact with your data. We can do the same thing. Rather than just trying to look at all this, what if I want to be able to see the top 10 products that we sell? Okay, I can come up here and you'll notice that it shows me a listing of just some different tiles here that are just different suggestions that Power BI has analyzed the data and realizes, hey, that might be really important. We might want to be able to go ahead and do something like this. So now once I have this in here, I can say show top 10 products by profit. There it is. Just like that, I now have another visual that I can show all of this information. And once again, it's going to give you all these different options that are going to be available that you can go ahead and work with there. Okay. So like I said, there's a lot of different tools that we can go ahead and incorporate to be able to see some of the information that's going to be built in. And once again, I can click Pin Visual. Go ahead, add it to my visual, pin. And so now if I go back to my dashboard, okay, here's all my information. And once again, I can set this up so that I'm showing all the right kinds of data. I can move these around a little bit. So if I take these, move them around, and be able to go ahead and put that information in here, drag it over, drag this up. And now, once again, I'm showing a full screen of all kinds of important information that people can take a look at just quickly. And if you think about it, once you get your dashboard set up, wouldn't it be nice, everybody comes into these weekly meetings or monthly meetings or whatever, and everybody's got to report on their own data points, okay? Wouldn't it be nice if you could just replace that with something like a dashboard? Because now you can share this out with people that need to see it and be able to do what you need to. And that way, like I said, you don't have to have that meeting every week or every day or whatever. Everybody just looks at the content right from here. So now once I get this information in, I want to be able to share it out. We have a couple of options here. First of all, obviously you see that you can share content. So if I take this dashboard, I can go ahead and I can share it out with whomever I want. So if I would want to go ahead and put it in here to, oops, let me see. I'll share it with Mariella because I'm sure she'll be thrilled with my report here. So now if I want to be able to go ahead and share this, now I can come in, I can share it. It'll allow her to share the dashboard with other people. She can build her own content with this. I'll also send her, I won't send her the email because she knows it's coming. So now I can click grant access, and now she has access to that dashboard. And it's just that easy. You don't have to even type in names. If you have distribution groups through Active Directory or anything like that, you can share this all in that kind of format and be able to display things. Now, some people kind of look at that and say, well, that's great, but some departments, we don't want them to see absolutely everything. We just want them to be able to see, their department. Well, Power BI has a feature called row level security that will allow you to go in and set it up so that maybe every department would only be able to see their own department's content. Again, that's something you kind of have to build down in the Power BI desktop, but it's a way that you can say, okay, here's your department. You can see your own department stuff. You can't see anything else. It's basically kind of like a filter that you see all over top of absolutely everything there. So there's a lot of different ways you can go ahead and use those to set that up. Now, I mentioned there's a couple of different ways that you can share this in Teams. You'll also, or I'm sorry, you can share it. You'll also notice that there's an option up here to share in chat. So if I want to be able to go ahead and have a chat with somebody, and it's really important that we're talking about this here in chat, what I can do is I can share this out to Microsoft Teams. And you can even put these directly into like a channel on Teams. So you can have a tab up at the top of the page that would allow you to go ahead and click on it. And now everybody that's in there would be able to go ahead and see that information. So you can go ahead and use those different options and be able to display some different tools there, be able to work with a lot of different features in that regard. It looks like this is going to cause me a little bit of grief here, but we will talk. Hopefully that will be able to show up. But again, when you share it with chat like this, now what will end up happening is your chat message can be set up so that you have both component or both people in the chat or the group all have access to that report. Now you can collaborate on it. You can look at all the information. You can study what's going on. And it makes it a whole lot easier to be able to go ahead and communicate your content, to be able to see what's going on. I'm going to close that because it seems to be causing a little bit of grief today. Okay? But that's going to be a way that you can go in there and organize that information to make sure you see what's going on. Okay? Now, I'm going to go ahead and close this down really quickly. When you think about this, like I said, you just saw that we can create these different interactive visualizations to be able to pull up all kinds of data. So there's a lot of different ways you can go ahead and make sure that the powers that be get the most important types of data that they need to. Again, as I mentioned, you don't necessarily have to worry about everybody going in and accessing all of this content. You can get it so that they're only able to see the content that's really most relevant to them. And as I said, you can share this information out with really anybody in the company. I guess they will need some licensing in order to go ahead and view it, but they'll be able to go in and kind of pull some different options up to be able to display everything that they need to there. Okay. I'm actually going to skip across this really quickly. Let me see. That's not really what I wanted. I think I kind of hid the wrong slide there. Okay. Let me do one more thing. Okay. So basically, as you're going through this, when you start working with some of these different features here, pull something up really, really quickly. And I want to go down here and make sure I see, kind of what's going on. So if you're looking for some kind of best practices when you're starting to work with these dashboards, first of all, make sure the dashboard is well organized. Make sure you have the right kind of information in there so that you can see everything that you need to, and make sure that the powers that be that are going to be using this are going to be able to see what they need to. Again, you want to make sure that you're setting up appropriate controls, different access points, and permissions to make sure that the really sensitive data is only going to be accessible by those people who really need to use it. If there's something else that they want to try and see, again, they're not going to be able to see it. They have to get everything set up there. Okay. And it's always a good idea to just go back in every once in a while and check on those dashboards. Just make sure that it's continuing to go ahead and provide all the relevant kind of information and the most up-to-date, accurate information. That's one of the other features with this. As you start working with these reports, you're going to realize that as you update the content, that can be done automatically. You won't really have to do much. You're just going to see all the updated data that's going to be in there. Okay, so that's kind of what I had for you today. What I will do is I will go ahead and turn it over to Mariella, and if we want to go and ask some questions, we can go ahead and do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff. But
Mhm.
before we get into any questions, I wanted to let our audience know that we do have a New Horizons exclusive benefit of obtaining a free digital achievement badge from Microsoft's PL300 course. So I'm going to drop it right here in the chat if the link will copy. My goodness, it is a funny link. Here we go. You can go ahead and click on that link. And you can click on that. And if you are unable to redeem the badge right now or are watching a recording of this webinar, you can still gain access to the free badge with the link you'll receive in an email after the webinar. So be on the lookout for that if you're unable to click right now, if you're listening and away from your desk. Alrighty, well, other than that, we do have a couple questions here right off the bat, Jeff. So I'm gonna quick fire them over to you.
Yep.
Where can I find PBTS anywhere that are kind of canned, quote unquote?
Mhm.
Like I want to have an overview dashboard of all my devices in my tenant or a certain brand, etc.
Okay, good question. So you do have some different opportunities if you just simply go out to Microsoft, and even if you just perform a Bing search, because let's face it, it's Microsoft. We don't do Google searches here. But if you go in and just do a Bing search, base it on Power and just type in Power BI um, data samples. You'll be able to go ahead and access that kind of information, and then it'll give you all kinds of different options, not only to access some sample data, but there will be some different types of templates for different visuals that you can incorporate as well. So that, again, those are going to be again, as you said, kind of canned. And then you can go ahead and you can even create your own templates based off of that, or you can create your own data and be able to go ahead and see some different things in that regard. So hopefully that answers your question.
Excellent. And another question here about an opinion on comparison. So, how does Power BI compare to Python visualizations in your opinion? Is Power BI easier ideally with Excel work, lower amount of data versus something like Python?
Yeah, excellent question. Yeah, one of the, trust me, guys, I'm lucky I can spell Python. Okay. I don't get into anything along those lines. What I will tell you is that Power BI does not require a a terribly large amount of programming knowledge. You can build things out. And in relation to Excel, it's basically as simple as choosing the spreadsheet and plugging it into your report. Yes, you can do some cleaning and transformations, but you really don't need to do much beyond that. You can go in and you can have really everything that you need to there. You can kind of build that out. So again, with Python, yeah, obviously there's going to be a lot more, and there are other things you can go ahead and do. But for ease of use, yeah, absolutely, I would use Power BI because, like I said, it does not require any kind of really programming knowledge or anything along those lines to pull that up.
That's some really great direction. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff. We have a couple more here. Let's try and get through at least one or two more.
Sure.
For teams located across the globe, what is the best way to have data that's always dynamic and most current?
So when you, again, another good question, when you start thinking about some of this content, you always want to make sure that the data is up to speed. So regardless of where the data is coming from and where it's stored, what you can do is you can have the reports automatically refresh every so often, so that you can pull it in. So maybe depending upon the type of license you have, like a pro license, you can have it updating once an hour or something along those lines. Depending also on the data source, you can also use a process like a storage mode called direct query, which basically every time somebody opens up the report, it automatically updates. So again, there are pros and cons to both of those, but that's going to give you an opportunity where you can go in there and see that. But the best way to be able to always see that information, like I said, just set up scheduled refreshes as often as you need to, or like I said, depending upon the data source, if you can use direct query, you can't really do it with Excel, but if you can use it with other databases, you can go ahead and give that a shot and see what happens.
Awesome insight to have. Absolutely. And I'm going to do one more question just because I think we could squeeze one more in. What was the feature called when you clicked sports and then it opened up baseball, softball, etc.?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's basically called drill down. It allows you to go in and find a specific hierarchy. If you have a hierarchy of data, you could take that information, plug it into a visual, and now the arrows that were up at the top of the screen allow you to drill down so that you can see just one specific grouping of a category, or you could see all the subgroupings and then be able to drill down from there and see all the detail or as little amount of detail as you need to. Very, very handy tool to be able to see a lot of information in a really quick way.
Awesome. Great insight to have when you are adding new features. I believe that will be the last question we get to today, just so I can be a little mindful of your time. And just as a quick reminder, I threw in that link for that achievement badge for you guys to click right before we get out of here. So I just wanted to say thank you so much, Jeff. This was a lot of amazing info. And if anyone here in the audience needs any more info on this topic, please do not be afraid to visit us at newhorizons.com. I saw a couple questions about the recording. You will be getting a recording in an email after the webinar. So if you missed out on any part of the session, definitely check that out. Thanks again, Jeff.
Yeah, no problem. Take care, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you very soon. Bye bye.